Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast, hosted by Joshua Shaw and Ryan Buckeye.
Joshua Shaw. It's been a couple weeks for us, I think, since we've been here, and we're back. Couple observations. With COVID, obviously, there are certain things and certain businesses that are considered non-essential, like salons, for instance. But your hair, coming through your hat, actually, it does look pretty long. Take the hat off. No, did you buzz it?
I buzzed it, bro. I know. This is like I'm going into the Hunger Games here.
Hold on a second. You had a comb over.
Yeah.
I had this point where... So not only COVID taking money out of people's pockets, it's now stripping you of your beauty.
I know. I've had that haircut probably since most of my adulthood, since college. But I went back to the college buzz cut look here because I have this thing about my hair kind of touching my ears, like on the side. It just like annoys me. And I got to the point where it was happening for a little bit of time. And I said, no more. This is not going to happen. So I joined the quarantine haircuts. I bought myself some buzz clippers and just went to town one night.
So you cut it yourself. You didn't make the girlfriend do it.
No, she wanted to kind of give me one of those like crazy, kind of blend and do it all. She was watching some YouTube videos, but literally I was seeing so many people with like horrible haircuts that I was like, man, I just, I trust you in a lot of things, but this could be something that would be, I'd have to like skin it. And at my age, at 35 now, like I might just never grow hair again. And like, I can't risk that.
I mean, good point. Obviously, if you go hairless for sure. I mean, it's crazy. It seems like we've been talking about this for a long time, man. I mean, initially it was like, okay, this is just like a fad. It's gonna pass, and it hasn't passed, and now we're into mid-May at this point. I think we started talking about this in March? Is that kind of when everything started?
I mean, even for us, I think it was a little bit before that because we were talking around the trade shows. So probably about around end of February for us. So like. I mean, this is, I don't even remember a time before this at this point. Yeah. It's just weird, like just little things in our lives, probably have stayed the same, but also like completely changed. I was thinking about this earlier that probably in the last maybe 9 or 10 years, this has been the longest period of time, like singularly, that I haven't left my home in the sense of like not traveling, not going to a client, not going on vacation, not going somewhere, like not being on a plane. This last, let's see, at this point, it's first part of March was the last flight I took when I was going from LA back home. I mean, that 2 months is the longest time that I've spent without a flight. So I'm getting a little bit stir crazy, which sounds like a first world problem for comparableness to like a lot of other people's problems. But like, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, I feel like I'm always in planes and I have not been in one in so long. And I've read some horror stories from people sharing some of the things that they've taken flights lately and how people are not very happy to be on those flights because they are kind of jammed in close and they're not having that middle seat open like a lot of the airlines have said and, whatever. And people are kind of, getting a little bit frustrated over that whole experience. So I'm not necessarily all that excited about getting back on a plane because of all these people that are going to ruin my fun and excitement to get back in the air. But, just a little problem.
Fun suckers at the airport. A lot of fun suckers at the airport.
I know. Fun suckers.
A lot of people are probably like, where'd you guys go? What's going on? I mean, Josh and I, all things considered, we're still staying extremely busy. I know I have not slept a whole hell of a lot in the last 4 weeks. You are out there grinding, still doing right. Like we've talked about this on previous episodes. I think now is a time if you're a brand within this space or in the functional food space would be the time they pick up the phone and call you because I see a lot of brands kind of just sitting back and waiting. Hopefully they collect their PPP loan and make that due. And that, to me, it's unacceptable. I feel like, and I'll say this now, if you're a brand listening out there and you haven't done anything in the last 6 weeks and you're just kind of waiting, like, shame on you. I don't know what else to say other than like that. I mean, you should be disappointed in yourself because I think this is a prime opportunity for people to really evaluate their business and take a step back and say, who are we? Like we've talked about this numerous times on this podcast, how many brands they lack identity. They think they're something when they're not. Or, they let a couple influencers on social media or people who are allowed us on social media dictate and, obviously put the label on them as who they are as a business and they run with it. That's not the voice of the mass population. So, there's there's a lot of people who have pivoted that we know that have done some different things, which is cool. But I think overwhelmingly, like most people are still kind of just chilling, hanging out, or they're getting by. And even if you're one of those brands who are just sitting back and getting by, I think you still have time to self-reflect and figure out, like, is this who you want to be? Especially when we come out of this and we get back to full steam ahead and people are back at the gyms and doing their things. Do you want to operate the same exact way as you've been operating, or is there an opportunity now for you to do something different? And I'm sure that you've had conversations with brands about this, but I'm curious, like, what is it that you've thought about in the last 6 weeks in terms of, like, your business? Because for those who don't know, Josh offers consulting services to not just our industry, but the CPG industry as a whole. You know, he goes in, he kind of opens the books and looks at their structure and figures out, like, basically doing like a SWOT analysis. I would assume is something very similar to it, like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and just like, or new product launches or new brand launches. A lot of people lean on you and your expertise. Like, is that what you're going to continue to do coming out of this, or have you thought of some new things and some unique things that you're going to provide?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think that for everybody to assume that you can go back to just doing the same things pre-COVID that you can do after COVID, I think is just going to be the wrong approach to do it, because I think that there's fundamentally going to be differences in people's lives and they're going to expect you to act differently as well. And for me, as you said, I mean, I've had way more work than I could even handle. I have really taken that. I've shouldered a lot of burden, and in the sense of, like, I want to be able to help more. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, I hate being on the phone with somebody and then you could tell, like, the desperation in their voice, and you go, I don't have the bandwidth to help you right now. I don't have the ability, and I don't know if there's a path that can help you as quick as you need it to be done. And you try to just give them some tips and pointers and whatever. But I think I've taken a lot of that to heart, just because I try to put myself in people's shoes. I try to think, if this was my business and this was my baby and I've spent 12 years building this, like, you know, how would I feel? And I try to put myself in that position, because I think that's important for somebody that's going to give any advisory, is to be able to, like, actually feel what that person's feeling, which is probably not good from, like, a mental health perspective, because I've had such a roller coaster up and down. But I think for me, I mean, for just looking at my business, I know I have, at least from, like, the forward-facing, customer-facing stuff that people see, the stuff that I do, I have tried to flip and focus more on shorter-term things. You know, still the positive. You know, really looking at your business and making sure it's positioned correctly for the market, but not necessarily thinking out, 12 months or 18 months, and really trying to think, okay, what is available in the next 3 months or month and a half, because I think there's so much volatility. So my messaging to people, and I think a lot of the lenses or the optics in terms of how I look at things, I've looked at them a lot closer from a short-term perspective. So I don't know if it's like a new product or a new thing, but I think a lot of my clients would say, like, you're looking at things from a much closer perspective and saying, hey, do we have the speed and agility to take advantage of something within the next 3 to 6 months of this kind of COVID type period, be able to ramp that up and create some cash, and then have that in the reserves for some other things. So I've tried my best to kind of, like, gear back a lot of my strategic thinking and more towards, like, short-term tactical and, like, kind of really quick volatile opportunity type of looking at it. But I think a lot of the stuff that I've been doing, I have been barking the same stuff for the last 7.5 years. So a lot of it has come full circle, that it's become very important. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about with, stress testing and risk exposure, looking at downsides, looking at the full picture of things, starts to become more important when everybody only looks at the positives. They're only looking at, man, sales growth and we're crushing it. They never think something could flip on a dime, and they need to have reserves. They need to have a lot of those things. So that kind of stuff has really been probably more prominent in my kind of speaking with clients and working with clients, is really addressing some of the stuff that I've always kind of put in there, but they've maybe not noticed or not really, thought to themselves that it was all that important. But yeah, it's been an interesting time period just for my business, just with the people coming and looking to me for answers, which I totally appreciate. I love that anybody would trust me with the small sliver of their business and have their ear open to me, looking into their business and trying to help them through. But it's also been, a very eye-opening experience for me, because it's the first, I guess, recessionary period that we've went through outside of when we first got out of college. And I think we've talked about that on so many episodes that, when we were getting out of college, it was kind of the Great Recession, the shitty time, and we were just trying to survive. We weren't really thinking about, like, we weren't at the period of helping people. We weren't at the period of influence where people were looking at us and saying, oh, what would you guys do? At that time, we were just peons trying to get a job. So this period has been a lot different for me. But that's on my side. I think on your side has been a little bit unique, because you have something that is extremely forward facing that people have been able to watch. How quick things have going. I know that I've appreciated a lot of seeing that stuff happen, because that's the ride that I get to be on a lot with clients, and seeing it from, friend to friend thing, and sending some updates and things like that. I get to see it. It's exciting because I see your eyes lighting up all the time when you're talking about Fit Butters.
It's just nuts to me, man, because we always talk about other people's brands all the time, and how they perform, and whether they're performing well or underperforming, or even now, like we started this conversation with what brands have been doing or what they've not been doing. And, it's cool for me to be able to be at the forefront of actually running a brand with a tangible product versus FI, it doesn't have a tangible product, but here I'm actually producing something, a food product, which anybody who knows anything about food, you do. There's a lot of rules and regulations that you need to follow. Even like when you're a small brand like we are, we still elect to follow them, because the last thing you want to do is just do something wrong, or, God forbid, somebody gets sick from what you make. Yeah. So, there's a lot of things that I've learned from doing this. We produce product twice a week in a facility that's a little ways from here, and then we spend a day shipping, because we're shipping out 100 plus orders a week, and then retailers calling. So it's humbling for sure. But I show it for two reasons. One, anybody who knows me, including you, knows that I'm a very transparent individual. Like, I will show everybody everything on Fitness Informant. I elected to do the same thing on Fit Butters. We'll take the phone with us on production day so people can see like their actual jars being made, and they know what we use in it. Some people might think it's gloating or cockiness, and that's not at all the case. I just want people to know, like, this is what it takes that you have to go through in order to be successful. Because a lot of people will, maybe do a talk after the fact and talk about the things that they went through, but there's no visual evidence of that stuff. So it's like, I'm going to show it. I think it's cool. And it's been good for us because, retailers look at that. They appreciate it. They want to support a small business, but they also appreciate that we're not at a co-packer. We're doing everything ourselves. We're putting the labels on each jar ourselves, which hopefully that changes soon. But, filling each jar to the point where we're 5 weeks in, man, and we are, securing a 3,000 square foot facility to do our own production and warehousing, which is awesome. It's exciting for me to be able to do that because, I don't know, maybe it's a little geeky, but the moment our sign goes up on that building that it's ours, it's going to be kind of cool, right? Like, you walk up to it, and it's like, okay, this is cool. And even the image that I posted, anybody who follows me on social, we posted, I put together basically an architectural layout of the building. I stripped the stuff out. And looking at that, it's like, okay, now I'm visualizing what that conference room is going to look like. But at the same time, it's like, how did I get here, man? I mean, it's there's this pandemic thing. I was running Fitness Informant, still running Fitness Informant. Launched this thing, fully anticipated doing everything out of food processors, doing like 100 jars a week. We've shipped out over 3,000 jars already in 5 weeks, and it's just like, okay, we're in almost 50 retail locations, and what's cool is like you get the reaffirmation from people. I think that's the coolest thing that I've been doing, is because people are posting on social media, retailers are posting on social media that they absolutely love it, and that just means that we did something right in terms of the flavor profile, but that's just one piece of it, right? There's so much that you have to, and you talk to brands all the time about the branding, the marketing, the positioning, your competitive advantage, your point of differentiation. And for me, it's been pretty easy because when a retailer gets that and they see the sticker on top, they're like, okay, this is different already. Then they open it up and they try the product, and it's like, yep, this is definitely different already. To the point where we got people from Nuts and More reaching out to us and wanting to have conversations. And it's like, now we're good. We're good. I like what we're doing. I like the authenticity that we're injecting into this brand. I love, that we respond to everybody who comments or leaves a review. Of any review that comes on the website that's a 3-star or less, I personally reach out and ask them what was wrong with it. It's just little things that I'm going to do that I don't think a lot of people will do, or they think maybe they're too good to do it. And at the end of the day, like, those are your customers. They're the heartbeat of your organization. If you can't please them, then you're not going to be pleasing your checkbook or yourselves, and you're going to be out. So, during this whole situation, I keep thinking about this too, Josh. It's like, okay, we're doing this well. And granted, launches you have to take with a grain of salt because a lot of launches go really well. Okay, it's about sustainability and longevity and reorders, and we've had retailers reorder. We've had consumers reorder up to 6 times already in 6 weeks. I mean, they're addicted. I just got a text from Steve at Natural Body. They're doing a reorder now already. And Natural Body, for those listening, is a massive chain of supplement stores out in New York. So, I mean, that's a good thing. Just meaning that it's working. So if the launch has proven that this works and it's a longevity project, it's pretty cool. And it's like, okay, we're doing this well during the pandemic where people are trying to penny pinch. What happens when this is done? What happens when supplement stores are actually starting to bring in more brands and more product? People want to spend $15 a tub. I keep thinking it's like, okay, maybe this is gonna be bigger than I thought it was gonna be, and it probably will. But for me, it's like trying to stay humble and try to make time for everything. Like I want to make time for this podcast and be here because I think it's a good avenue for me to vent and talk about things other than peanut butter. Obviously we're talking about it now, but we talk about, and I was telling Danielle, who's on the Fit Bars line, I want to continue to do the Josh episode, the podcast with Josh, because we talk about so many business topics that are relevant to what we're doing. So Josh is has a plethora of experience and knowledge. I try to share what I know. But maybe Josh, you say something in conversation I didn't think of before. And now I'm back, now when we're off the podcast, I sit there and it's like, okay, Josh brought up a good point. Maybe I should look at this, and that. So, for me, this is a nice little way to stay sharp. But at the end of the day, the last 5 weeks of my life has really been like going back to MBA school and really talking more about business. It's not just, I'm not a supplement company. That is the furthest thing with that. I'm a food company. And it's cool to be able to, now, sourcing, logistics, and the entire supply chain and shipping and taxes. It's just, you learn stuff quick because you're forced to. So it's been awesome. It's been fun. It's been a cool ride. And at some point, I'll get some sleep again. But until then, I'm going to keep grinding and doing my thing. And I got to get you some out because I guarantee if you're worried about hair loss, this is a straight anabolic booster. It's better than Tren. So I think if you take it, you're gonna walk around with an afro, a full-fledged beard, and you're going to look like fucking Superman, dude.
Yeah. That's like your new tagline.
Yeah. Look like fucking Superman, dude. Just roll with it.
Yeah, I think it's important for, I think, both of us to explain. Maybe we took a break for a reason. I think both of us were, stressed out from the stuff that we were doing. And we also have always been busy. And I think we've carved out, a consistent 52 weeks straight of a year straight of putting these out. And both of us looked at each other and said, we're overly stressed right now. Do we want to do this or not? And I think that, through some conversations, then it was like, yeah, both of us have reasons why we enjoy taking the time out of our week, even if it's a small period of time. We take a small break and we go, we're going to talk about stuff that's just more casual, because I tend to talk about a lot of this stuff in one case or another, but it's very technical and professional, and very much because people are paying me money to give them these things. So it's not necessarily that I get to bullshit with people about casually about some of these subjects. And a lot of times we talk about things that are ancillary or a little bit outside of what I tend to talk about in content or anything like that. So for me, it's a kind of a venting as well, and also just a way to round out a lot of the stuff that I enjoy doing. I think that we're both passionate about this stuff, and I think it's kind of therapeutic in a way just to have that go back and forth. So it's exciting to kind of get back into this. I know that we didn't have a particular topic this week because we just wanted to just kind of catch up. Since for us, it's been a month since we've done one of these, because we tend to get a little bit ahead for our schedule purposes, just in case we have to travel, which right now we don't. But sometimes you're doing some things project wise on my side. I'm doing some things like that. You just can't make time during that week. So we like to get a little bit ahead. But
You mentioned something, Josh, some of the topics that we talk about were, are ancillary or outside the box of what you normally talk about. That's how this was for me for the longest time. We were talking about wholesale pricing and exporting, and now that's my life, right? It's a lot of the stuff that we talked about for the last 52 weeks. Yes, I've had some knowledge on it, but I was still, a media company, I guess, right? So I understood how wholesale works. I understand price sloping. I understand all that stuff. But now I live and breathe in every single day with retailers, and look. And it's funny because I sit and think about some of the stuff that brand owners get pissed off about. And what, for example, I'll talk about now. Retailers carrying my product, selling it online. A lot of people will tell retailers, like, you're not allowed to sell online. You have to sell in the store only because I want to be the only online platform. Okay, that's your prerogative. My take on it is I don't give a shit. Sell it online. The more you sell, the more I sell. So, like, let's help each other out. Like, yes, I like the D2C margins. They're great. But if you're going to sell a bunch and your reorder rate is every 2 weeks, that's guaranteed income. I mean, if you're paying that invoice via credit card at whatever our wholesale price is, I don't care. And, it's just it's funny for me to sit here and think, like, okay, well, so-and-so got upset about it. I'm not upset about it. Why were they upset about it? And just, like, kind of put yourself through the ringer. And, people listening to this might be like, well, you shouldn't let people sell your stuff online. I just want people to have this product, man. Any sort of, like, ability and access to my product is what I want, whether it's through me, through Natural Body, through, Nutrition Factory in Tennessee, whoever it is. Like, if you want to sell online, knock yourself out. I don't care. It's your product. You've paid me what you had owed. Just respect MAP is the only thing I ask, and they do. But at the end of the day, it's just more comical for me just to think about things that brand owners have gotten upset about in the past, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, just roll with it, and will it bite me in the ass? I don't think so. I think that we're working pretty well, and I think that, for that particular situation, that is the ultimate support of that brick and mortar store. Like, that's their product. Let them go. And in fact, like, if you're running a good sale, I might even send an email blast to my customers saying, go support Natural Body or go support whoever they're running a sale. I know Ghost does that all the time with GNC. When GNC does a, buy 150, they send people right there because they want to support their partners. And maybe that's where I got that from, from Dan and Ryan. And I kind of took a lot of influence from those guys and Aaron over at Redcon. But it's just, and Mark at NutriBio, a lot of the brands that were with Doug down at Core, they do a lot of cool things. And I'm trying to do things how I feel fit, and it's just unique now to think about the last 52 weeks of our podcast, some of the topics that we talked about that I'm applying to my every single day work life, running 2 brands right now, which is fucking ridiculous, but it's, I do what I can to stay on top of both the brands, which has been, I mean, a lot of people dream about owning one business in their life or being their own boss, let alone 2, and yes, I will say there are a lot of brand owners out there who have, like, a portfolio of brands, right? Like 7 brands. At the end of the day, those brands are very similar. They're the same formulas, different labels. My brands are connected but disconnected because they operate completely different.
Yeah, there's model that you did was, and we talked about it, I think, before, but there's been a lot of entrepreneurs that have, built up a following essentially through some aspect of a media company, be that like just a blog or in your case, multiple outlets of different mediums of communication. But like there has been, one of those things where you start to, people start to trust you. People start to obviously be a part of your life. They get connected, whatever that is. And then eventually you find some passion that you're really into and you want to launch a product off of that. And then that's usually a really good launching pad, because at that point you do have the ear of a lot of people and you can go, hey, this is what I'm doing. I mean, I don't need you to buy this, being a follower on Fitness Informant, but hey, me, and if you like these products, try them out. I stand behind them. If you've loved my core values over here, it's the same core values over here. Everything's going to be good. And if it's not good, I'll stand by that and fix it and make it right for you. And I think that is a really good kind of bridge between, even though they're very different, it's creating a business out of something you would have had to do anyways, create that level of influence. And I think that is something that is going to be a trend going forward, both from like an individual purpose and from even just like big media companies coming out with product extensions. So you see a lot of stuff with like Barstool Sports or, BuzzFeed or, things that they've created, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue outside of their just, advertising revenue or things that they get through their core business. And I think that is a really good model. I know we're just kind of like freestyling right now, but I think it's one of those things where you tend to, regardless of the period of economic kind of condition, if it's recessions or really good, you tend to still follow people. You still tend to communicate. You have this kind of connection with people, and that helps you bridge through like some of the things where you're going to have to deal with, is somebody going to trade down? They're not going to really trade down as much from you to Jif because they know you. They don't know Schmucker or, whoever owns Jif, I think at this point, but like, they don't know those people. So like, they're gonna be like, it's $1, $3 more. You know what? I'm just going to go with Ryan because I know Ryan and I want to support Ryan. So like, there's that aspect of like the localized commerce or just like influencer led or just, media conglomerate type of a led business where you have a connection somehow that guards you against some of the things that could happen. So like you said, I mean, you're doing well even in this time, which is probably going to extend out for a little bit of time. And then when it starts to move again in a positive manner, you likely are going to get more trial because there's going to be more people that are going to jump on that have a little extra money and go, oh yeah, I'd love to try, what Ryan said. I haven't had the ability before, but now I do because now I'm back working or, whatever reason.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's like, okay. And that's why when we talked about, episode before our break is like this time period is kind of an opportunity like to see something or do something different or take advantage of stuff. And for us, it's like, okay, there's also, when we looked at kitchen space, now is the time to do it because literally the kitchen space that we got was from a business that went out of business because of COVID-19 and they left everything, all the equipment. That's ours now. Like I get it, and whether or not we want to keep it or sell it or whatever, like that was something that we got. The leasing. I mean, warehousing and retail space isn't necessarily decreasing in terms of price per square foot, but I mean, there's more availability of places that might fit what you're looking for. And for instance, for us, if we didn't already get a place that had a pre-existing kitchen, we would have invested $50K on building a kitchen out. Don't have to do that now. That's a big cost savings that we can reinvest into the business and put into inventory or whatever it might be. But I'm excited about it. It should be fun. It's been cool to put my sales hat back on too because I haven't had really obviously we do a little bit of sales through FI, but it's more or less like people are coming to us. And one of the coolest things too is like a retail store reached out to me and said we had customers coming into our store asking for your products. Like already? Like what? Okay. Yeah. And I haven't done any paid marketing, so I can only imagine when I actually do what I do for a living and do some marketing on this thing, what could happen. But I mean, we obviously have been staying busy. When we look at the grand scheme of things in terms of the landscape of our industry, I think we both can say that, yes, it is struggling. I think, for instance, a case in point is like, look at Aaron Singerman over at Redcon 1. He had made a public post saying like, obviously they had huge plans for this year, and they've finished well below projections. And I think that's normal for anybody. But it's just, it's weird to see the world basically stop. And, but now I think, we're X amount of time into it. Now we're seeing sort of that changing of the guard. People are tired of it. People are sick of sitting at home, and their business owners are tired of not making money. And, I don't know if you know him personally, but he's friends with Aaron Singerman. But Lou, who owns Metroflex out in Oceanside, California, reopened his gym last week, got arrested, put in jail. Now he's on the national news, and, they're planning on just doing it because he's a business owner. So that part to me has been super interesting, that these small business owners now are like taking back their lives because they have to pay bills, and they're just electing to open the doors and do what they and try to earn an income. As we wrap up this podcast, and like I said, we've been kind of spitballing, I do want to get your thoughts on that. And like in if you're in a gym owner's shoes or a restaurant or whatever it might be that's not considered an essential business because you're not doing takeout and delivery, like would you flip your lights back on and say fuck it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the economic, like if the break evens and things work out, like I think there's a point of sometimes when you turn the lights on, like as a restaurant or something like that, you are adding a ton more cost to maybe potentially not get all that much business. So it's I guess a moral thing, but there's also the financial business perspective that you have to think about. So like if I could cross that out of my mind, because I am a business person, right, I would definitely open up. I don't like any liberties getting taken away. And I think that this has been something where Americans should have the choice to decide their lives. If they want to go out, they can go out. If they don't want to go out and operate as normal, then they don't have to. I mean, I think that it should be left up to the person to act appropriately. I think as adults, we can all make the right decisions for our day-to-day lives. I think that we have not been given that opportunity these last so many weeks. And I have talking to a mutual friend of ours, Mark Lubliner, that's been pretty public about his thoughts. And I've expressed my share of them on Facebook and different things like that. And I have been extremely pro activity during this whole time. I didn't honestly think we should have shut down at all since the start of it. I just, that's my personal opinion. I know that's going to upset some people, but I just personally think that we should have just kept going and instituted certain kind of things like, if you want to go out, maybe you do some social distancing things, maybe you wear face coverings. You could decide those things, but I think you put those in place, but you don't restrict everybody from going out and just basically collapsing almost the whole economy to do so. So I have been, I've watched that particular gym owner. I don't know him personally, but I did watch some of that stuff unfold. I think that's great. I've also liked to watch like Elon Musk kind of really go against the California government and say like, I'm opening up Tesla. I'm going to be on the production line. If you don't like it, you can come and arrest me there. Good luck. Basically. So I think a lot of people at this point are saying, this is too far. We've went way too far now. And it's just upsetting to me because as somebody that has definitely a confirmation bias towards like the economic side of things, I've seen this been coming for months. So I already knew this was happening and you could see the hurt. But I think most people don't really think about that side of it. They're only thinking about it from right in front of my face. The news is telling me that X people are dying, X people are getting sick. That's all I have to worry about. And I think that that's been clouding them from what's actually like the real pain that could happen, which I think is now starting to come down. And I think it's going to continue to come down for the next maybe 3 to 6 months of just things flushing out in the system. And you're going to start to see different, parts of the business, parts of the economy kind of break down. And, things are just going to look different. Things are going to be extremely different. And I think I feel bad for going back to some of those original statements around like some of the owners that have talked to me on the phone, and I could see the desperation. It's like, you feel for it because like a lot of them are put into a position, regardless if their business was run soundly or not, the rug got pulled out from under them. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate that they had to lose everything because of some type of, states deciding the fate that you're no longer allowed to operate your business. I think it's just unfortunate that, that this has all become some weird like political balancing act or whatever, where people are trying to create power and they're trying to create, an outcome that's going to, be in November. I think people are just making this out to be something that's a lot more than just, public health perspective.
Yeah. I mean, we will not get political on this podcast because then people will be like, what are you guys talking about? You don't know what I'm talking about. Listen, I am with somebody who's in the medical field as well, and we have conversations about it quite regularly. And we'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that because I think many people who can look beyond the media and look into certain things, I think you'll educate yourself quite a bit more. So if you are one of those small business owners and you're still hanging on, good luck. Obviously hang in there. Hopefully this shit turns around quick. It's impacting my fitness informant business. Your business is probably being impacted a little bit. I think you probably still stay very busy. So it's just not as much travel and not as much Taco Bell out to eat. So, listen, Trump, you're fucking with my boy's Taco Bell. Open the country so he can get out there and travel the world and get the best regional Taco Bell in the nation, which is, I don't know, who the fuck knows. But if you like what you heard here, hit that subscribe button on the podcast. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, 2 Guys, 1 Shaker Cup, at Jay Shaw Jay Shaw Consulting on Instagram. And you can follow us as well. Appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, hang loose, everybody. Hang loose.